This is Mongolian Mindset, and today we're going to be typing somebody for myself, Dr. Brad Stanfield. Like we said in previous videos, every time Mongolian Mindset drops a video, we send a motherfucker to the psychiatric ward. We are the red pill of typology. Once you get the real truth, you can never go back. We are having our monthly call today at 4 p.m. Where we get on there, we talk about the goals that we accomplished last month and the goals that we're setting for the following month. This is to track and hold each other accountable. Our overall group is to make everybody the best human beings on the planet. I don't really care about anything else. People are talking about ending all these different causes. Like, dude, I don't care what you do, but just be the best version of yourself, because that gives you the power to actually make a change. You got to start with yourself. So we want to put our members in the best possible place they can be in, and then move from there. But yeah, that's Mongolian Mindset. We are still doing free MBTI. We're still doing the free ones. All you have to do is join our group and message Cody, our moderator, with your availability, and we will get you typed. We are still doing free typings. My brain just I don't know, man. That's our trickster, bro. I just be forgetting shit sometimes. Yeah, so we will get you typed if you want that. We are still providing that. We have the Mega Live today. That's very important to our group. But yeah, this one's for me. This guy's for me. I love Dr. Brad Stanfield. Dr. Brad, if you're watching this, keep up your material. I think you should make that vitamin that you're talking about, the multivitamin, without the mega dosing. I think that'd be a help. You'll get a buyer from me, because I'm sick of buying all the other supplements you recommended on Amazon. I'd rather just buy one thing. So let's get into it. Personality database doesn't have Dr. Brad, so we don't have to worry about them fucking him up. But let's go.
7th, 2020.
Okay, Dr. Brad is the guy right there with the blue eyes, with the white shirt. So comment below what you think Dr. Brad's personality type is, and we'll see if you're correct. And 40% of our viewers are not subscribed, so if you guys can please subscribe. That helps us grow the channel. That helps us grow our Facebook group, and we're all about reinvesting into our group.
21. I'm Brent Nally, and I'm really excited to be here with a medical doctor and an awesome YouTuber that I've personally learned a lot from, Dr. Brad Stanfield. Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot, Brent. Really excited.
I am getting Omega responding vibes from Dr. Brad.
For our chat.
Definitely, me as well. So, Brad, you have a medical degree from University of Auckland, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And currently you're working as a general practitioner in your day job, and then you're a husband and father, and also doing YouTube and doing it pretty well. How do you find the time to do all this?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're recording this at 5 a.m., so yeah, I work full time. So my day usually starts at the clinic from 8, finish at 5, and then I've got to try and fit YouTube and, being a father and being a husband and whatnot all around that. So yeah, it's a lot.
I'm a new father as well. My son, our first child, just turned 18 months a few days ago. So,
all right, Dr. Brad's coming off direct responding. We're gonna just put an asterisk side of it. Direct responding. Okay, we just put an asterisk side. We're not 100%. It's only not even a minute in.
I share your challenge there, and it's been challenging to raise a baby in a pandemic. I wouldn't recommend it. There's that old saying, it takes a village, and we didn't really have much of a village because of the pandemic, but I know a lot of people have been disrupted from it, so everybody's got their sob story on that. But how old's your child?
You see he didn't interrupt him at all. He just sitting there. Yeah, I'm gonna put responding down, but we're gonna make sure we're not seeing outcome, because if we're seeing outcome, then we have to change that. Because
it's just coming up 6 months.
Direct outcome equals extrovert.
So yeah, it was pretty tough for those first 3 months, as obviously, life changes in a pretty massive way. So yeah, trying to keep this YouTube channel going during that time, trying to work at the clinic. It's been a lot, but yeah, things are getting better now.
Okay, congratulations. That's awesome. So we're gonna get.
Sounds like this guy's on a journey. Okay, that sounds progression. Okay.
Get into a few different things about your background, how you got into longevity, why you started YouTubing, how you think we can solve the human aging problem potentially, or if that's even a noble cause or a possibility.
That's why I love Dr. Brad. I think he's one of the best on human aging. He provides some of the best content out there in human aging. I want to look young forever, so me and Dr. Brad are on the same pilgrimage.
At all, what your thoughts are on that. But before we jump into that, would just love to know.
And you damn Mongolians should want to look young forever too. God damn it.
You normally wake up at 5 a.m. I'm really appreciative of you doing this, and hopefully the audience as well too. This is kind of a longevity and lifestyle question. Is that your normal schedule?
So I normally get up at 4 a.m. and that's to try and make sure that I've got time to actually get all of the things that I need to get done. So particularly around the research around each.
Okay, so I get up at 4 a.m. because it allows me to get things done. I'm going to say that's systematic, okay? Guys, systematic. You're like probably a STJ, NTJ.
Video. So I used to be able to publish 2 videos a week. Obviously with child and whatnot, now I can't really do that. So I'm down to 1 video a week. But each video, with the research and shooting it and editing it.
Talking about the research. Okay. It's TE.
It takes me about 20 to 25 hours each video. So yeah, to fit in that time, I do need to start my day pretty early. So yeah, this is pretty normal for me now.
Wow, that's really good information for me as a YouTuber personally, and it makes sense because from watching your content, I can tell the quality is very high impact, and you can tell you've done a lot of research on each video. And I like how it's really compact. You know, your videos are about 10 minutes or so. You always have the scientific references there. Speaking of that, everybody, in the description below, I always put timestamps with the show notes. So obviously subscribe to Dr. Brad Stanfield's YouTube channel if you're not already yet. What are you doing? The link will be in the description below. Check out his content. I'll also have Dr. Brad Stanfield's link to his Twitter account. And, you know, Brad, if you'd like me to put your LinkedIn on anything else in there, if you want to connect with people, we can do that. So whatever you feel is best.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's direct responding. Okay, so direct responding, we're down already to ISTJ, ISTP, INTJ, and INFJ, okay? Dr. Brad, you're one of those 4, okay? Go to the handy dandy chart. And because he's direct responding, he can only be ISTJ, ISTP, INTJ, and INFJ, okay? We got a little hint of progression there as well, so we felt pretty confident putting that down.
So I'd love to learn a little bit about how you got interested in longevity. Did this happen before you started your medical degree, or did this happen along the way, or maybe even after you got your degree?
Okay, so we're gonna be we want to see some journey focused shit here. Okay, let's see some journey focused shit here from Dr. Brad. He should be saying, just happened along the way.
Yeah, so as a teenager, I was always very much into sports. I was always looking at ways to try and improve my athletic performance. So that's
talking about trying to improve his athletic performance. That's SE.
Molecules such as creatine and whatnot. So that took up a lot of my time initially. Then I went to medical school,
okay, so he's talking about the journey here. Progression. What did we say? We knew it was coming.
Started talking to us about telomeres and whatnot, but I didn't really pay that much attention to aging, so I was still, in my early 20s at this point.
You see, I didn't have no direct outcome. You see the difference between me and Dr. Brad? I'm like straight up, I want to look good forever. That's an outcome. That's an end product. This man's like, well, you know what? I did this, and then I started going there, and then there, and then it kind of landed in my lap.
Occurred to me. And then when I started working as a doctor, I noticed a couple of lines around my eyes, and I suddenly realized that I'm starting to age. And what can be done about this? Because,
journey.
We're in the 21st century. Surely we've got exciting methods that are promising, that are hopefully
Methods would go in the realm of systematic and TE.
To come out for humans that can extend our health span and even ideally our lifespan. So that's when I started looking into it, and I realized that a lot of the content out there, they focus in a lot on what petri dish studies are, or what mice studies are, and they try and extrapolate that to humans. And I thought that wasn't necessarily in our best interest, because until something's actually proven out in humans, you shouldn't really be extrapolating it for our use. And there's been multiple instances where we find something that's really promising for mice, but it doesn't translate to humans. So a lot of time and money is spent, and a lot of stress for some people is spent trying to, follow these promising things in mice, when actually it's not going to give them any benefit. So that's why I wanted to start my channel, is to really focus on what the evidence actually shows, as opposed to, what other people's opinions are. So yeah.
I wanted the facts from the outside, from the research, not some bullshit. I'm gonna say that's TE, and that's seems as though it's like more high TI. All these guys are pretty high TI. Okay, let's keep going.
That's fantastic. And from watching your channel, it totally makes sense. So again, I want to plug your channel and recommend people check it out. To piggyback on what you were saying there, I see things that are like, C. elegans lifespan has been extended 500% just by this one tweak of something. And it's like, well, they're very short-lived creatures, and that doesn't extrapolate. Humans are already very long-lived creatures relative to the rest of the animal kingdom, not including plants, but sentient life. So it's very hard. It's a well-known, understood scientific conundrum that it's very hard to extend that lifespan even further in the already long-lived species like us. So it's hard. If we got a 500% gain on our lifespan by one tweak, that would be surprising probably. Okay, so really great stuff, Brad. So you're currently about 29 years old. Is that accurate?
Yes, I'm 29. But on your point about how humans are already long-lived, so there are organisms out there that have
So he's responding to what he said.
Have cracked the code, if you like, about longevity. So there's a species of jellyfish, for example, that they don't get cancer, and their cells are immortal. So they can continue living. Well, if you can call a jellyfish living. So I'm inspired by that I think potentially one day we can extend lifespan.
All right, so that's potentially one day. That's the future focus. That's abstract. Okay, Dr. Brad. If you guys are noticing it, you should have been noticing. Look at his eyes. INTJ deaths there 100%. 100%. Look at his eyes.
And I'm really hoping to cover that research when it comes out.
It looked like somebody slapped Dr. Brad in the back of his head, because his eyes are just like.
You're referring to what's called as the immortal jellyfish. There's been this Japanese scientist that's been researching them for like over 30 years. Some good documentaries about it. I'll link the Wikipedia article to it. But, there are some critiques on the immortal jellyfish. It seems to actually basically reproduce itself to become immortal. So it's just kind of like rebirthing itself is kind of what scientists currently believe that it's actually doing. There's another species called Hydra. It is a multicellular species that seems to be biologically immortal, meaning that it shows no signs of aging. Researchers have been studying Hydra, and they can't find any signs of it actually biological aging, but there are legitimate critiques about this Hydra as well too. Translating that type of biological technology into humans to help us increase our health span and lifespan with Hydra. And Hydra is super interesting. I want more researchers to study Hydra, because it can actually reproduce itself in many different ways and reproduce different aspects of itself. It can sexually reproduce itself. It can asexually reproduce. It can turn itself into like a hermaphrodite and basically have sex with itself to reproduce itself. If limbs are cut off, it can regrow limbs. If a limb is cut off, then that other limb can turn back into itself and regrow.
Look how responding Dr. Brad is.
It has all these regenerative type of capabilities that are mind-boggling. And then just a few weeks ago on Lifespan News, I'll link there, we reported on a new study that came out about big mouth buffalo fish. And I had never heard of these fish before personally, but the researchers studied big mouth buffalo fish from age 2 to 102.
He's getting some TE
and
over
not
here.
only did the researchers not find any evidence of biological aging in these fish, but something even more miraculous happened in my opinion. the researchers showed that these big mouth buffalo fish, which are found in North America, I'll link in the description below, they actually showed signs of becoming more healthy as they got chronologically older, which to me is mind-boggling. So I'd love for the researchers to study that more. Have you heard of the big mouth buffalo fish before?
No, I haven't. But that concept that I think you've touched on, where you can potentially replace some of your cells, if you like, that's the thing that I'm really excited about. If we can find a way to safely
That's the thing that I'm excited about. That's a little bit of his FI coming out.
clear away senescent cells and then replace them with new ones, I'm really excited about the potential of that.
He's talking about the possibility there. That's abstract again.
You know, there is a human trial, I think it was published, 2019, I think it was, in humans, where they used zatinib and quercetin to see if
that's TE. So ISTP and INFJ are eliminated. We're down to ISTJ and INFJ. Okay, the difference between ISTJ and INFJ, one is concrete, one is abstract. One is pragmatic, which means that they are rebellious, contrarians. They want to be effective. They have a utilitarian mindset. And then ISTJ is cooperative, want to do the right thing, about trying to be interdependent, inclusion, that type of thing. Talk about doing the right thing. So with that being said, we're down to those two types. We already got a couple points for abstract on Dr. Brad. And we got a point for SE earlier. So it's looking like Dr. Brad's probably most likely an INTJ. So let's keep going.
they could clear away senescent cells. And
he already has those deaths there eyes.
It did. The humans that they used had lung fibrosis, so scarred lungs, and they wanted to see if they could clear away some of these senescent cells from their lungs, would that improve how far they could walk? And they did get a small benefit. So it'll be interesting to see whether this theory of clearing away senescent cells will actually work.
Talking about the theory, that's abstract.
In humans.
I completely agree. And Dacetina.
And the way he gave the outline there was progression, not outcome. He wasn't talking about the end product. He walked you through it.
Dacetina, I don't know. I think it's a difference in pronunciation between American English and like British or New Zealand, Australian. And then quercetin. Those are two senolytics that have been studied and used with efficacy data for decades. So those are really exciting. There's some really good trials and research going on with both of those. But you mentioned replacing damaged cells, or senescent cells is what you were saying, with new cells. So I've heard of a book, and we reported on it on Lifespan News. I haven't got to read the book yet, but I've watched a few interviews of this researcher, this Asian researcher. His name is, I'm going to butcher it, but it's Jean Hebert, or Hebert. It's French. I think it's JeanHebert. And his book is called Replacing Aging. So what his basic thesis is that we should be able to replace every single organ in the body. And he educates people to let them know we've actually already replaced every single one of the 78 organs in the human body except for the brain. And that will probably be coming up soon. There are some medical experts that are trying to do brain transplants in humans. They've already done them in other animals. So what are your thoughts on that strategy? Are you aware of this book and Jean Hebert's work?
So I'm not aware of that book, but the concept...
Direct. I'm not aware of that book, direct.
...of, again, clearing away old senescent cells and then rebuilding new ones.
The system, okay, he gets into the system.
...is something really promising, because we've got stem cells in our body, and it's a matter of activating them. So I do want to stress that all of this is very... it's sort of cutting edge. We don't have data to suggest that this will definitely work. I'm just excited about its potential.
Talking about the potentials, that's abstract, that's possibilities.
You know, so the classic one is if you accidentally cut yourself, you can heal that cut. And a lot of those new cells, yes, some of them are to do with dividing existing cells that you've got, but there are some new cells that come through. So yeah, I'm excited about the potential of this, but it's so new, and there's so much more work to be done to see if it will actually work.
So he's looking at the progression from the aspect. So he understands the progression of what needs to be done for it to come to full fruition. and the work that it has to be done, an outcome person doesn't really see that as much. You could kind of see that in our interview with Dario Nardi, the difference between me and Dario, when Dario was talking about something and when I was talking about something. Dario Nardi could drain me because he goes through the progression straight up or something. I'm like, damn, man. I kind of see why INTJs don't want to do certain things, because they know the progression of what they need to do to get that set thing. So it could kind of be like, well, I have to do this, and this to get that. As in myself, I'm like looking at the end product. I'm just like, I'm going to get that end product, and it just works like that. But I'm not like looking at like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Because if I looked at that, I probably wouldn't do it.
Completely agree. And also a story we reported on Lifespan News. I promise I'm not trying to just plug the show that I host of, but it's coming up organically in this conversation. A couple weeks ago, some research came out of Stanford that they've been working on for years, that they just published, that showed really, really good wound healing for not just like scars, but also things like stretch marks. I have stretch marks right here from like lifting weights. When I was in high school, I was doing powerlifting. I also have stretch marks on my back and my groin, and the groin area got like a yeast infection in like 2011. So it's not just aesthetic, is my point. It can lead to, other types of health issues, which I luckily went to a dermatologist and had that resolved totally fine. And I've had better hygiene to resolve that. But I think the point that Brad is pointing out is that we can have all sorts of research that might seem like it's early stage right now, but it can really be exciting, and we want to know where to put our resources and energy into. So Brad, this is a question I normally save for the end, but since we're already dabbling around it, let me ask the question. If you were essentially had unlimited resources, if you were like emperor of Earth or something.
Oh, this is an abstract question here.
What would you personally be doing to try and solve the human aging problem as quickly as possible?
So I think there are two parts to the strategy that I'm interested in. The first one is trying to extend health.
Look at him. He breaks it down. You're going to break it down systematically.
Span. So there's a lot of things that we know in humans will increase our chances of being relatively fit and healthy when we're 70. Things like having a great diet, having regular exercise, not smoking, minimal alcohol intake, good sleep, making sure that our stress levels are at good levels. So, but equally, we haven't translated some of that data into humans. So, for example, with diet, everyone's got a different strategy around what is the best diet, and the reason for all of this.
Everyone's got a different strategy. I could say that's systematic. Talking about the best diet, okay.
Strategies is we don't yet know what the best diet is, and that's because it's quite difficult to run randomized controlled trials in humans.
That's TE.
Over a long period of time. It's very expensive. So I would, some of the unlimited resource that I've got, I would love to actually investigate what is the best diet for humans. And unfortunately,
what is the best diet for humans? That's systematic again. Best way, best diet, best one way to do something.
That data will take a lot of time to get through, and it would be quite expensive to do.
That TE would take a lot of time.
Because ideally you'd want to study people for 5 or 10 years, and you'd want to have ideally a couple of thousand people within these trials, and you'd want to be trying all sorts of different diets. So
more TE, more systematic.
That's one area that I would love to actually spend some resource in. The next one is, we do have a lot of exciting molecules coming through from the lab. So, for example, NAD boosters, and there are some human trials coming through. I would ideally want to speed those processes up, and then say with NR, nicotinamide riboside, some of the trials going on now are to see in older people, if you give them NR and you combine it with exercise, will that give them even more exercise benefits? If that proves true, then hopefully you can use that as a launching pad to then mix it with other things. Will nicotinamide riboside and creatine give them even more benefit, and sort of build up your supplement stack from there?
Okay, so he's talking about the progression of that. Okay, how to do that. Start with NR, then see what does creatine do for it. That's progression.
But all of those things are trying to help your health span. None of them really will extend a lifespan. And that's really the tricky thing. When it comes to lifespan, when I started my channel, I thought that the research around lifespan was far more advanced.
Talking about the research TE.
Than what it actually is. So I was under the impression, again, when I first started my channel, that it was just a matter of time, that some of the molecules that people are really excited about, it's going to pan out in humans and we're going to be able to extend lifespan by 30, 50, 100%. But that doesn't actually...
That was pretty hypothetical there. Abstract. We're going to go a little bit longer, maybe 2 more minutes. But yeah, he's an INTJ.
It look like it's going to be the case. So, you know, some of the classic ones are metformin. So when you give metformin to C. elegans, it does extend lifespan, but the actual increase in lifespan, it's not that much in terms of percentages. And when you try and translate that into humans...
Okay, we know this guy's a TE machine. And I would say that Dr. Brad is unconscious focus, because you don't really see FI child just coming out naturally. You don't just see it just all out in your fucking face, okay? This guy's unconscious focus, kind of like Shelly, kind of like Thomas in our group, Jordan as well, unconscious focus.
Know that with metformin, if you combine metformin and exercise, you get in the way of exercise benefits. So that's why the strategy that I personally use at the moment is using the instant release metformin, and I only use that on rest days. So, and if I could exercise,
so that was a perfect system there, strategy there, because it gets in the way of exercise to take it on the days off. Genius, Dr. Brad.
6 times a week, I wouldn't take metformin at all. So that, yeah, I'm less excited about metformin in terms of extending lifespan than I was previously when I first started my channel. So it's a really tricky one to know what is the best strategy to extend lifespan. And
talking about the best strategy, systematic again.
And that's why I come back to the senescence idea, because to me that seems to make sense. If you can clear away these senescent cells and then regrow
I want to say,
ones,
like, when people are looking at like the best way to do something, that's usually systematic pragmatic. Okay, that's systematic pragmatic because it's kind of like has elements of being utilitarian and systematic together. So that's usually an NT type thing.
that seems to be the holy grail of longevity, and fingers crossed that actually works out in humans. But then you do have to figure out which senescent cells should we be replacing, because not all of them we should be replacing or trying to remove. And then trying to stimulate.
You see how he could like kind of ruin your like optimistic end product mindset? Well, you know, you got to find the right cells, and then you got to find this, and then you got to find that. By the time he get done, just like when Dario Nardi got done, I'm like, man, damn, I'm not even enthusiastic about this shit anymore.
The correct stem cells, if you like, to replace those old senescent cells that you've cleared away, and making sure that they don't become cancerous. So that there's a complex web that I don't think we've unraveled yet. So it's tricky to know as to which one I would put my money on as to this is going to be the longevity strategy that we should be
He's talking about NI there. Best path forward.
Following. Because we simply don't know at this point.
Yeah, lots of good stuff in there, Brad. So one thing I want to point out real quick regarding metformin, I have basically the same strategy as you. My problem is sometimes I don't take my metformin because I plan to work out that day, and then like I get busy with other stuff on the internet and I don't actually end up working out. So then I skip my metformin that day. So I got to get better at that. I'm going to start putting my workouts on my calendar, and I got to get better.
I guess I would say that he's less systematic than Dr. Brad. I would say Dr. Brad's a high systematic NTJ, STJ, and he might be something else, if not even systematic at all.
And then regarding what you're saying about clearing the senescent cells and replacing them, being a really, I think that that's important, but I think for me personally, I don't think I put as much importance on that as what you described it. So I want to ask the question about, are you familiar with the hallmarks of aging, the 9 hallmarks of aging paper that came out in 2013?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yeah, but it's, I think, yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just saying it's a paper. I'll link it in the description below. So basically, like, I've been researching this stuff since about 2006, and Aubrey de Grey really got me into it when I started watching his YouTube TED Talks and lectures and then interviews and things like that. And so Aubrey has basically said there's 7 reasons why we age, and it's all about molecular damage, and you can just basically repair all these things. It's an engineering problem. And then in 2013, this paper came out with these geroscientists, multiple geroscientists, mainly out of Spain, that said there's 9 hallmarks of aging. And then it's kind of like nerd fight. Aubrey de Grey was like, well, the 7 that I say are actually the true ones. You're merging some of them to be like 9. But like in general, you know, the geroscience community has all kind of marched along and been like, okay, fine, 9 is cool. And Aubrey's still stuck with his 7s. And that's kind of where we're at right now. But that hallmarks of aging paper has generally thought to be very good, and it's withstood the test of time over the last, we'll call it 8 years. This is 2021 right now. That was 2013. But it's not to say that there aren't critiques of the paper. It's certainly not perfect. We have way more we need to learn. But my point is that the 9 hallmarks of aging, one of those hallmarks are senescent cells. So there's 8 other hallmarks of aging. So that's really where my question comes from, you putting an emphasis on senescent cells. And I'm just pushing back a little bit saying like, well, that's one of the 9. And they've actually classified the 9 hallmarks of aging and of having different levels of priority, being like some being upstream causing or contributing to other, and the 3 upstream that are the most, senescent cells is not in that, even in that top category. So, you know, that's just what I'm pointing out there. What's your thoughts on that? And you can push back on me if you want a little bit, but that's just my initial thoughts.
So when it comes to repairing damage, so I agree that this
is interesting. Is this guy? He's shocking me here. Is that some T critic that coming out? Is he ENTP? What's going on here? You come after my boy Dr. Brad.
Within our cells, we've got a lot of different mechanisms, say particularly with DNA repair enzymes. We do seem to reach that limit though of how many times our cells can divide and replicate. So obviously that's when our telomeres get shorter and shorter and signals that our cell needs to become senescent. So if you could make one cell as healthy as possible and
if you could make one cell as healthy as possible, that's abstract.
Keep repairing its own cell components, that's then abstract. Maybe yes, you're correct that you wouldn't need to clear away that cell because it's already healthy. It's tricky because so much of this at this point is quite opinionated and theoretical because we don't have these therapies that are available yet for us. But yeah, if you could figure out a way to make that to make your human cells as healthy as possible and don't need to be replaced, then yes, you're correct. You wouldn't need to clear them away. But I suppose the devil's in the detail. How do you actually manage to do that?
We're talking about really complex, difficult stuff here. The limit you're referring to is called the
highly complex. Damn, what is he gonna do now? What is
Hayflick limit. It's named after Leonard Hayflick, a very prestigious gerontology scientist based out of San Francisco. He's, I believe, in his late 80s, early 90s now, still alive. So he's kind of like a godfather to some of the more younger, prestigious aging scientists right now, like David Sinclair and Aubrey de Grey and things like that. So basically, you know, all of our cells hit the Hayflick limit at different rates, but it's on average about 50 replications of the cell before it reaches that Hayflick limit. And then the cell is supposed to undergo apoptosis, which is cell suicide. It's supposed to just basically clear itself out and kill itself. But for whatever reason, some of these just don't. They become senescent or like zombie.
Okay, he's going through a progression here.
Cells is what I like to call them because that's really like what they're doing. They're alive.
Yeah, I like to call them. Okay, so he's defining them under himself. That's TI.
They're spewing these horrible chemicals, inflammatory cytokines, and other types of harmful chemicals that then affect our other healthy cells and turn them into bad cells. So I think senescent cells is certainly super important, but the The real conundrum is, how far up or downstream is it in this problem? So I just want to touch upon one thing really quickly that you were also talking about when you were answering the massive, huge question of solving the aging problem, which is the clinical trials, how expensive they are. I don't think you used that word, but that's clearly a big problem. They're super expensive. They're very bureaucratic. They don't run long enough. They don't have enough people. That's all tied into the money. So what I see happening and what I see is going to solve this problem is going to be the free market. It's going to be entrepreneurism, big money coming into here to actually have us completely redoing the clinical trial process in humans, having it online, open source, sharing as much data as possible. That's what my company that I'm the co-founder and CEO of, called Longevity Plan, that's what a big thing that we're trying to do. I will openly share my business model with every single people right here on the internet, because I think that this is so important, and no one company is going to be able to do this alone. We all need to share data in an open source way, and we have.
Okay, he's going on the tangent. I think the guy's the ENTP. I think the guy's in the ENTP. I think he's the ENTP. He's even willing to share his data, whatever.
Technologies like smartphones, iPhones, Androids and stuff, where we can validate things sometimes even better than the way clinical trials are doing right now. Like, you could take a video every single day if you actually taken your metformin.
Hypothetical.
Hold it up, put it in, swallow it, and then upload that to a database. We should be taking GrimAge and PhenoAge, DNA methylation clocks that are believed to be the most prestigious by the germ science community, to show people's age before and after, and other blood marker, biomarker tests. So all this, I'm basically saying that I think that the human clinical trial.
He went on a tangent, and then they try to come back. They'll say, well, the purpose is, or to be clear, or to be exact, after they go on the tangent, they bring their ass on back.
It's just ready to be disrupted. It's right for it. It's ready, and we need to do that. So what are your, I just spit a lot at you, Brad.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that whole idea that I'm sharing with you?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct that we've got a lot more data than we did 10 years ago. The tricky thing is who's going to be taking the placebo, because the reason why the clinical trials are run in the way that they are, as in ideally you want them placebo controlled, is so that it tries to control for a lot of different other variables. So for example, if one person wakes up and decides, you know what, I want to take charge of my health, I want to start taking metformin because I hear that it can hopefully extend my life. They might also be doing a whole bunch of other things. They may have started, eating better, going to the gym, trying to sleep better. So with the placebo control part of that equation, you can control for all of those other factors. And then you can say, okay, was it all of those other things, such as the better diet, etc., that is actually giving you those benefits? Or is it metformin? Or is it a combination of the two? So that's also going to be the tricky thing. Yes, you've got all of this data, but how do you control for all of those other variables if you don't have the placebo-controlled part?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've thought deeply about this in my company, Longevity Plan. Our other co-founders, we've talked about this a lot. What I say is that the whole population, almost all 7.9 billion of us, we are the placebo control, essentially, because most people aren't doing much to slow, stop, or reverse aging.
That's a systematic point of view from him.
They might be living a healthy lifestyle. And so that's where the data collection is key here, getting people to be as transparent and honest as possible and collecting as much data with them, because it's unethical to tell somebody, hey, you shouldn't be doing something that you perceive to be potentially helping you become more healthy. It's very difficult from a morality standpoint to build that into the human clinical trial, in my opinion. So I think the best thing you can really do is let people just transparently share what they're doing, and then use machine learning. And
he's talking about a system to devise. Yeah, he's an NT as well. Not 100%. I'm not gonna drag this video out. This is Mongolian Mindset. Dr. Brad, if you're watching, you're an INTJ, man. It was a pleasure to do you, man. But this is Mongolian Mindset, and we're off to go do leg day.